talk about fentanyl and opioids and other drugs. I'm joined by Rabbi Bresinger, who is director of Habad Lifeline, and Guy Pierre Levesque is co-founder and executive director of Metadam. Thank you both for being here. There's no point pretending that Montreal can keep fentanyl at bay. It's coming, right?
It seems to be that's what people are talking about on the street, that it is coming. But I think more important than anything else is to know that, fentanyl or any of the other drugs, in a certain sense, they're the solution. They're not the problem. They become the problem. But what's going on in the underlying factors of a human being that brings him to the place where he needs to self-medicate in this way, that really needs to be the focus.
So how do we start to solve that problem?
I think that starts by going into the schools. We do that. We go into schools, we talk to kids, we bring people who are in recovery, and they come into the schools and they're having a conversation not about don't do drugs, but about what's going on in the inside, the inner terrain of a person. Being able to bring out some leading with your weakness, speaking in vulnerable terms, having people understand that a person is only as sick as their secrets. So bringing that stuff up is what's going to address that real problem, which is what's going on in a person that's causing them to self-sabotage.
Do you agree that's the main focus of the problem?
I do agree on some part of the problem. I don't think it's the majority of the problem that has to be addressed this way. People use drugs, yes, because some of them suffer from all kinds of self-esteem, and there could be a lot of reasons. But also, people do choose to use drugs. How come? Why? Because it was offered to them, because they tried it, because they liked it, and they wanted to use it. They got caught with the addiction, and now they have to deal with the addiction, and that becomes a problem, especially if you become an abuser of the drugs. And that's the worst part of it, is when you come into the part where you are an abuser. When you're an abuser, then there's no limit of the amount of drugs you could use, and there's no limit of what you can do to get your drugs. And that's also a big problem.
I don't think the problem is lack of self-esteem, or it's not as simple as that. I think addiction is the disease of the disconnect. Whatever's going on inside of a person, they're feeling isolated for whatever the reasons, and the reasons are many and multiple. The question is, why for about 10 or 15% of the population, the addictive behavior solves that temporary problem, while others will just use and then move on in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I agree. So the people are using it, and now you've got to look after them. You say your services are free, immediate. Is Habad Lifeline ready for fentanyl?
I think so.
If that crisis in Western Canada appeared here, would you be ready?
I think we're ready. I think all of us, nobody's turned away because of financial difficulty. Everybody can be taken care of and helped. And the way we're able to offer that to so many is because we have tremendous resources within the recovering Montreal community. So we have addiction counselors, but then they have dozens of other people who want to come in and be able to mentor, to befriend those who want to start a new way of life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the city's ready? Because the city does talk about a plan. They basically say they have a plan.
Well, when I'm looking at the city, I'm not sure we are ready. We are working to get ready, but I don't think we are. Actually, you have to answer to people doing overdose. Okay, so if you want to be able to save lives, you have to have people that have antidote. That antidote is Narcan or naloxone. Mm-hmm. And first responder needs to be equipped with that. So ambulance must be equipped with that. Also fireman and policeman should be equipped with that. Also, we are working to equip also people that are using opiates, people that are also living around people using opiates. So that could be friends, could be parents, could be co-workers, it could be people that stay in the same apartment, all that. They need to have this training to prevent overdose, also to get trained to respond to overdose. It's very important to be able to do that.
But I've heard stories about police not wanting to carry naloxone kits. What do you say to the people like ambulance technicians and firefighters and police officers you believe they should be carrying the naloxone kits?
If it's going to save a life, how could anyone disagree with that? mean, they have to. It's part of their first responder. They have to respond immediately with what's going to save the life. That's the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of the people we're seeing, opiate addictions or things, came about because they stole their parents' prescribed medication. They're not necessarily people who are living in apartments or with... A lot of people with addiction, probably a vast majority of the people with addiction, they have two cars in their driveway. It's not necessarily the people on the street they have to be taken care of, but I hear how you're talking about equipping the city to take care of a segment of the population. That has to be in crisis. But this is a much bigger picture. We're talking about a very small percentage of those who are addicted.
If I may answer to this, we've set the first overdose program in Quebec, which is run by peers. And in that program, what we did is we elaborate that program to be sure to respond to the crisis on the street, but also we did recommendation about people getting opioid prescriptions and that they should be probably offered to have naloxone at home. Example, we're talking about a teenager maybe using the drugs of the parent because they got an opioid treatment for any kind of reason, and these are also a danger for opioid overdose. And when you're talking about naloxone, you're not talking about only people from the street. You're talking about everyone who's using an opioid, and it's got to be accessible. It's got to be there, and also training is got to be there, and that is something you just don't give out a naloxone program. You have to give them also training to be able to prevent the overdose and also to be able to recognize a sign of overdose and to be able to administrate properly the antidote.
Because it's life or death.
Absolutely.
But I think part of the problem in dealing with addiction is there is a stigma. The stigma is that the person with the addiction is on the street. So there's no question there's a problem on the street. But the crisis is in the person's heart. The crisis is in the homes. And I think we have to bring the conversation towards normalizing those who we would never think are struggling with addiction. It's when those people come for help. I think then we're going to move forward as a society.
Let's get back to the street. Beverly B said on our Facebook page, safe injection sites save lives. Astrid Walling, also on Facebook, writes, clinics save lives, reduce crime, and are an open door for further help to those who need it. It's about time. Peggy Bougie tweeted, these sites save lives for sure. Sandra Gadjos worries, I think safe injection sites would enable addicts. It's a very dangerous drug, and it should be banned. Maybe Guy Pierre, talk about safe injection sites.
Well, for sure, I'm for a safe injection site. Our organization is working towards that. I've been visiting safe injection site in Europe, many places, in Switzerland, in Copenhagen, in Amsterdam. I went and visit these sites and to see that we're talking about safe injection site. Yes, it's going to help, but also we should be talking about safe consumption room because people are not using only with needle. They are using with smoking crack. They are using cocaine in a different way. It's not only about injecting. It's also about all of the drugs that are being used, especially drugs that can cause harm like these drugs I just named. So it's very important to, yes, open the door to safe injection site, but also to open the door towards other drugs that are happening and to be able to use these drugs properly in a safe and at the same time environmental place so that you have everything you need. Also, when you're talking about safe injection site, maybe we have to look at the situation. Why is it like that? Why people have been injecting in the street and all over and hiding about it because there's a problem further down the road.
Mm-hmm. Is Habad Lifeline in favor of safe injection sites?
We understand the importance of having harm reduction activity. That's an important part of it. But what we're looking is for the abstinence model, meaning that we want to talk to people about not accepting where they're at, but moving from there. Now, you have to work with the person where they're at. You're not going to send somebody away. But we're also the family members, the children that are involved with these family members who are, let's say, doing these self-sabotaging things. To normalize that is a scary process. We don't want that. This is not the human capacity.
Yeah, you seem to be very much focused on trying to prevent the problem from getting to the point where, they need safe injection sites. And, you said that fentanyl should be treated kind of like alcohol, the way the problem with alcohol is treated?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Fentanyl is one of the drugs. Fentanyl came for a reason. Fentanyl came in the streets because other drugs were taken off the street. That's one impact that we've seen since in North America when the OxyContin was pulled out. People turned out and got fentanyl to change drugs because they couldn't have access to the other. And also what we say in our philosophy of thinking is if drugs are accessible, that are controlled by a government, are distributed properly with regulations and everything, people will take drugs that are less damaging their person, and they will be able also to be able not to hide about it and get treatment when they need it, and will be able also to put more money from, instead of putting people in jail, we should be able to put money more into prevention and also into treatment. That's where the money should go. It should educate and also cure people, not take people and put them in jail and hope that they will stop using drugs. That's not how it works. I wanted the proof of that. So,
Pierre, thank you very much. Rabbi Bresinger, thank you so much.
Thank you.